I had reached out and been doing some yoga, and one of the teachers at the studio, her name is True, she has had some classes that have been very beneficial for me. And so I said, hey, True, I'm doing this. And she's like, I'll come teach a mantra and teach a kriya. I'm like, really? So she's here today. Now, True spent more than a decade in the music industry, hosting and producing radio shows, touring the world, and producing radio shows with top-name artists, and managing emerging talent, until she had an injury which turned her life upside down. She spent years pursuing answers and healing through Western medicine systems as well as Eastern holistic and spiritual practices. She was led eventually to Kundalini Yoga, which provided her with the answers that she was seeking. So True now teaches Kundalini Yoga, meditation, and she's also a spiritualist, writer, artist extraordinaire, whose life and work reflect and remind that we are so much more than we think we are. So it's my immense pleasure to introduce True. So let's get our energy going.
Well, first of all, I want to assure you we're not actually doing yoga today, so nobody has to get up or do anything. And I'm going to sit because I'm tall, and then I don't have to lean. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, just because I am and have been you. 20-some years ago, I was seeing a chiropractor for headaches that I had as a result of some flu bug. And part of his treatment was interferential current TENS unit. Some of you may be familiar with TENS units. It's the electrodes you place on your skin. It overstimulates the nerves so that you don't feel pain. Interferential current basically means these are the wall units, so it's much bigger, much stronger. The instruction manual clearly said, do not place these on the skull or cross it over the spine, because after all, we are an electrical system. But the chiropractor, who later admitted he hadn't bothered to read the instruction manual of this very powerful device, did both of these things, and then cranked the level up high enough that my head was jerking back and forth while on the machine. A lot of doctors will cringe when they hear this, but such it was. Now, I was uncomfortable and tried to get myself taken off the machine several times by different people passing by, but everybody said, no, 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 you're fine. And then the machine shut off and my head kept moving in the oscillating pattern of the machine. Now, I made Katharine Hepburn jokes on the way out. My head was moving back and forth, and figured, okay, humor, it's going to die down. And it didn't die down. It did it all night long. It kept me awake. By the next morning, I was pretty freaked out. I reached out to the chiropractor, who would not speak to me because at this point he realized maybe he was in trouble. And I recognized I was on my own. My neurologist at UCLA diagnosed me with a constant head tremor. So my head was moving in a constant no, in an oscillating pattern from the machine that, by the way, remains in perfect form to this day. It's still in my brain. The constant pain or the constant head tremor was perhaps more a primary symptom than a diagnosis, in that what had happened to the patterning in my brain was much more expansive. My endocrine system had been affected, my digestion, my memory, my vision. I couldn't handle flashing lights. Balance, I couldn't walk a straight line, let alone drive. I still have this automatic pilot where if I'm going through a lot of people, my knuckles naturally will drag along a wall so that I keep my balance up, even though years later I'm kind of working through that. Because this was such a rare and perhaps even unique situation, people didn't know what to do with me, so I was seeing specialists all over the country. Yale University, NIH, Mayo Clinic, University of Chicago, University of Miami. I got very, very good at telling my story. This is what's happened. This is how I'm broken. Please fix me. Coming into this practice now, which is based in large part on mantra and the things that we're repeating, I recognize the power of these stories. But if our story is that we are broken, which is what it must be so that we can talk to our doctors effectively. Either a new doctor who hasn't heard this story, so let's start at the beginning and I'll tell you the same story I've told to every other doctor, or a regular doctor that you're seeing where you have to be able to make the comparison into how you are today versus how you were the last time you saw them. Are you better? Are you worse? On a scale of 1 to 10, how many times have I had to gauge where I am on a scale of 1 to 10? We're telling the story to our family and friends because from them either we need space to heal and thank you, I'm good, just leave me alone, or we need their support to get us to appointments, to just be there to hold our hand, whatever it is, but it keeps us in that constant narrative. The talk that we do to ourselves, where I'm doing enough, I'm not doing enough, I should be doing this, I can't do this because I'm sick. And then the talk that we have when we finally find other people, like in this organization, where you can come together and say, this is what I'm experiencing. Somebody else can say, me too, which I didn't really have. The closest I came was a lightning strike therapy group in Florida. And by the way, just horrific. They're champions. They've been through some amazing things. But this kind of organization where you can reach out and commiserate with one another and say, okay, here's where I am, and share in something so that you don't feel so isolated and alone. Now, think about that word commiseration, because it basically says that we're going to collaborate in our misery. Again, we're back to that story that says, I'm something broken, I'm something in pain. Necessary though that is, true though that is, we're falling into archetypes of how we tell this story. And that has everything to do with how that narrative story is told. By circumstance, we are the victims, just the way it's got to be. We're the ones in pain, we're the ones needing help. We're also the villain, because it's our own body that is turned against us. Whether it's some illness within us or the body, the pain, something is turning against us. And so the self-loathing thing happens, that I'm not okay in my own skin. The hero is often the doctor, the caregiver, the family member who stood by us through the whole thing. And sometimes, if we remember, the hero is ourself, so that we're getting through these things day to day. But is that actually the narrative that we're telling? Because we tend towards the I'm in pain, please help thing a lot. Now, whatever story we're telling, our subconscious is listening. And the way the subconscious works is by hearing something in the here and now as though it has just happened for the first time. There is no time. It didn't happen before and we're getting better. It's all happening right now. So it says, okay, brain, let's go into action. We have to prepare for something. And it sets our endocrine system in motion so that we are on alert. So adrenals come up, stress levels come up, and now we're ready to go. But now we're not at DEFCON 5, where the world is at peace. Now we're at DEFCON 4, maybe DEFCON 3, and that keeps us in this state where we're kind of repeating this pattern. You've got doctors telling you what you have, what your diagnosis is, your prognosis, your treatment plan. That becomes a part of your story as well. So now you're anchoring this story in. Now I've got validation from some important person who's told me what's going on, and I lock into that story. You've got a reason to be telling this story in that perhaps disability is reliant on you being injured and sick, and so you want to stay in that case because I need the money that's coming in. I need to not have to work every single day. I need to be able to stay home and address this. I need the excuse that says I don't want to go out to that social event because really it's a pain in the butt. And yeah, I'm a little achy, so I'll stay in. We keep doing these stories. Now, it was the doctor at Yale who recognized that I was not fused or singed or something burned in my brain, which a lot of people had been looking at. And by the way, I nixed the whole partial lobotomy idea because that wasn't working. I nixed the Botox idea that was going to keep me paralyzed in bed. I nixed the idea that said, let's put you back on the same machine that did this to you. Yeah. But this doctor recognized, okay, it's not something fused, it's an imprinted pattern. You had this extremely strong electrical pattern with a specific repetition of an oscillating pattern that was forced into my brain. My brain was forced to learn it in a very short amount of time. It wasn't something I wanted to learn, but here it was. We're going to repeat it really, really loudly, basically, high vibration, and make sure that you learn it. The most important thing I learned in the last 24 years, the strongest vibration wins. Now, putting that in another context, the strongest pattern wins. The strongest story wins. So if we're going to be telling stories, we can tell the story of my body's broken, something's wrong, everybody please know that and help me. Or can we shift it to, yeah, that story has to play out for the doctors, but I've got this other story playing over here. And this is the message that I would love for your people to know next year. We are spirits in the material world. No joke. And we're so focused on this body and how it's feeling for us, we've forgotten the spirit, the soul within us that's actually really fine. It's not in pain, it's not doing anything, it's just kind of sitting and watching and saying, how are you gauging this? The body is going through some struggles, which may mean that it's broken. It may mean that the world is broken. The world's kind of wacky out there right now. We've got EMF, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got crazy politics, we've got crazy natural disasters. Everything is kind of heightened. Maybe we're just not interfacing as well as we once did with the world outside. And then this whole system is run by the brain, which is basically a computer that can determine the path and the focus that we're going to be going with. So if we are to shift that story so that we're still honoring what we need to tell to the doctors and caregivers, how can we have something going in the back of our mind, playing in our subconscious, that changes it to, no, actually I'm good. The soul within me, the spirit within me, we're all good. And I now need to put my brain in gear to address something so that I can heal my body. Kundalini yoga and meditation. By the time I discovered Kundalini yoga and meditation, the nervous system that had been fried or imprinted, whatever, by this injury was out of control. I could no longer control my body. I could no longer contain it. I had contortions doing this to me. I was seeing things. I was hearing things. I certainly couldn't hold a yoga pose, but I was pulled to this practice by reading about it, and all of a sudden a lot of things made sense. So I came into the lobby of the studio where I am now working and said, okay, please help, because I don't know what to do. I'm just out of control. And they said, okay, cool. One meditation, this meditation that I'm going to teach you today. Let's see what this one thing will do. Now, the reason this meditation is so powerful, Kundalini yoga in general is considered a technology. It is a science. It is the yoga of the mind, the yoga of awareness. It is less about stretching and looking cute in your Lululemons, which has its own purpose. But this one is about, I can train my brain to be the operating system that runs this whole body, mind, spirit system. How do I pattern myself with rhythm, with repetition? So I'm basically hypnotizing myself into something pure and whole. Kirtan Kriya, that we're going to go through, does that on 4 different levels. You're speaking a mantra, you're speaking it in 3 different vocalizations, you're working mudras that are working basically the keyboards to this computer brain, and you think even with Chinese medicine, you've got meridian points that end here. By the way, you also have 84 meridian points on your upper palate, so every time you speak, you're patterning your brain. And then there's the visualization where you're channeling energy in through the top of your skull and out into this world so that everything kind of comes into balance. Mantra is a key part of Kundalini yoga. It is a 5,000 years old language. There are specific patterns, specific mantras for everything from pain to injury to money to beauty, all sorts of things that you can be chanting specifically. Gurmukhi mantra, this mantra from this practice, is considered the highest, purest vibration on the planet. So if you're going to be lying a vibration into your brain, not bad to be using the highest, purest vibration on the planet. If, however, that doesn't resonate with any of y'all, cool. There are English words that we can speak that kind of say the same thing. We are spirits in a material world. It's not a bad mantra. I don't know, the one that I always kind of go back to is Miracle on 34th Street. I believe, it's silly, but I believe. She got her house, right? It opened up the door just enough to kind of get that one in there. I just watched Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One. I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. All right, Force, God, however you want to see that one, there's all sorts of ways of doing that. A very simple one that connects both religion and spirituality. I am. that spirit within me exists, don't forget. And if you do I am, now you're not trying to answer the who am I, what am I supposed to be? You've answered it with I am that I am, that's it. And to get back to that place is what we're trying to do with mantra. So whether we're speaking it, and we'll speak it with this meditation today, or if you can be listening to it in some format in your house, you can change the environment, the vibration of your home by simply playing the right kind of music. It doesn't have to be mantra, though that one helps a lot. Play something positive. That way you've got something positive coming into your brain at all times. You can watch whatever TV shows, whatever crazy violent TV shows. If you have something positive playing over here, your subconscious mind is laying that pattern down so that you're healing and calming yourself out of that DEFCON 4 state back into peace. And then it starts patterning you into something new. I actually have mantras playing 24/7 in my house. So all day, all night, they're constantly playing. Nighttime is especially key because your subconscious mind is at rest. It's not taking in anything else, so it can really receive this information clearly. If you can make a recording of yourself speaking your affirmation, your mantra, whatever you want, in your own voice, put it on a recording, play that overnight, your own voice is even stronger. So now you're patterning yourself, talking to yourself to get you back online with you. I'm not sure where we are on time, but I'm trying to kind of crunch a little bit because we're running a little bit late. So I'd like to have everybody kind of sit up. You always see yoga people sitting in cross-legged. You can actually sit on your chair, put both legs flat on the floor so that you're not crossing your legs because that crosses energy. But if we can get you in a comfortable position. And then this posture, with your index finger and your thumb touching. This is connecting you to growth and expansion in your mind. It's a nice peaceful way of kind of tuning yourself in. You see this one a lot. And I'm just going to have us breathe for a little bit. So no yoga, but let's get some breath. Breath is energy. Prana, they actually call intelligent air, intelligent energy. So we're bringing this into our lives or into our bodies so that we can get something moving and energize ourselves from being in this position where I personally used to forget to breathe a lot. You have that shallow breathing because life has just gotten a little bit too tight. Breath of fire, if it works for people, and sometimes it doesn't, but breath of fire is an even inhalation, exhalation fairly quickly to where it's going to sound like this, just as an example. Now, my navel center is actually doing the pumping, but I'm not focusing on my navel. I'm focusing on making sure that the breath coming in and going out is an equal measure. If that fast breathing is too much for you, at times it was for me. Part of my little process, I had 130 resting heartbeat for a year because of whatever was happening in my brain. That's about double the speed it should be, by the way. So I couldn't do breath of fire, it was too energizing. If you need to slow it down, again, even inhalation, exhalation, so that you've got something kind of bringing energy into and pumping out of you. So we're going to do a little bit of breath of fire, just about a minute, to kind of tune you into what that feels like and energize us a little bit. All right? So hands on your knees or somewhere comfortable. And then close your eyes. If you can focus on this point here between your brow, that's in your third eye, your intuition. So it kind of tunes you out of the conscious mind and into your higher consciousness. And then just begin breathing in that pattern. Ready? Keep going. Focus more on the inhale than the exhale so that you're not going to keel over and pass out. You want to bring more air in, but make it even as much as possible. Take a deep breath in. Hold it for a moment. And then exhale. 1 minute is going to tune you in that much. 3 minutes, of anything that we do in Kundalini Yoga, but breathing especially, 3 minutes actually will shift your entire endocrine system to where your body is now working for you. So if you ever need to center yourself in some way, pull yourself aside, breathe for a couple of minutes. 3 minutes is perfect, but if you can't do that much, do what you can, and it's going to help bring you into alignment with yourself just a bit more. All right. Now, if you have your pages of Kirtan Kriya, I think it's page 6 in these instruction manuals, I'm going to walk you through that. So you're already sitting in a comfortable position. Again, if you can do a cross-legged position on the floor, great. If not, just make sure both your feet are flat on the floor. A little bit of space so you've got good balance. And then place your hands comfortably in your lap. You want your palms up. Now, when I first came in, I greeted you with the mantra Sat Nam. That's kind of like Namaste. Sat Nam means your true name, your true form, your true identity. So it basically says, I see that spirit within you. And we connect on that level. Sata Nama, which is the mantra that we're going to be chanting today, are the primal sounds of Sat Nam. It represents the elements. The sounds are Sa, Ta, Na, Ma, and A that unite them all. It represents the elements. It represents the cycle of life. Sa is the infinite divine, the universe, God, however you want to see that one. Ta represents birth. Na represents death. And Ma represents rebirth or transformation into something new. So that's what we're chanting. The idea is that this mantra gives you control as your true self of this world here, because this is the one that our bodies are inhabiting. Now, as we chant this sound, we're going to be vocalizing it in 3 different ways. We'll start out loud. So you're going to be chanting in, quote, the voice of the world, how we're dealing with it these days. It's best to sing it, and we're going to sing it in the tune of Mary had a. So, Sata Nama, Sata Nama. If you don't feel like singing, chant it out loud just like you're talking, but something so that you're actually vocalizing it here. And then we're going to whisper it. Now, whispering is the voice of the lover or longing to belong. It's where we're kind of connecting to something on a different level. And then finally, we're going to just chant it mentally to ourselves. And that's basically the voice of the spirit. So we're tuning into something higher. And then we'll reverse that and chant it silently, whispered, and out loud. So it's basically taking us on a waveform where we go in and then we come back out. When I was doing this practice and all the contorting and things that were happening, I started this practice at 11 minutes a day. I ended up doing it up to 7 or 8 hours a day. I was in bad shape. I needed this. And it is what turned me around to where I can actually be taking yoga, let alone teaching yoga, just a couple of years later. Whatever length of time you choose to do it in, keep each segment, there's 6 segments, though the silent will feel like double because it's back to back. Keep each segment equal, so equal in time, the same amount of time. There are versions online of Kirtan Kriya, which will specifically give you this pattern, or Sata Nama, which may or may not give you the different vocalizations, but you can find all sorts of different lengths from 6 minutes up to 62 or 2.5 hours, I think. Narinjan Kaur is the version that we're going to listen to today. She's got an 11-minute version. She's got a 31-minute version. They're lovely. They have the proper melody. They have the proper rhythm, so they work particularly well. So you can get those on iTunes if you feel it. Now, with your hands, we've already learned this mudra. And again, these are kind of the keyboard to the computer in our brain. So if you just, we're going to move different fingers, only in this sequence, by the way. On Sa, it's your index finger to your thumb. On Ta, your middle finger to your thumb. On Na, your ring finger to your thumb. On Ma, your pinky finger to your thumb. So only in that order. Sa, ta, na, ma. By the way, this becomes really repetitive too. I do this when I drive a lot because it keeps that energy going. It keeps that patterning happening in my brain, and it's very calming. So just saying, whether or not you're chanting, this is a nice thing to do. But chanting, it's tuning us in a specific way. And then the 4th part, we're going to visualize a column of white light coming from the heavens. Whatever religion, spirituality as you see fit. This has no denomination. This is just a spiritual practice. So column of light coming in, and then you're going to aim it out through this brow point, out into the world. So you're basically bringing in the energy of heaven and aiming it out into the world in a specific way. This is a big deal because you're telling your brain how to channel that energy. You're telling your brain what to think. And by the way, we can do that. We can tell our brain with our will how to think. This one Kriya is going to help you pattern. If you change nothing else in your life, if you simply add this on, your brain is going to start changing automatically. That's why they say it's the most important Kriya, because we're working it in so many levels. It's like having that machine attached to me. Your brain is learning something because it's repeating it. And if you can add this pattern, all of a sudden your brain is going to be behaving more efficiently, more effectively, and you're going to watch things start to change in the way you think. So you can believe that or not, it's still going to work. That's the cool thing. You don't have to believe in it. Give it a shot. See what it does for you. All right. Now, I have created a shorter version of Narinjan's 11-minute meditation so that you can just kind of learn it today, but this is not the full 11 minutes. We're doing about half of that. So if you would, hands on your knees, and again, only in that order. If you're doing it in any other order, you're doing a very different thing with your keyboard. You'll be spelling a whole different word, basically, so you don't want that. So, Satanama. Doing it to a musical track is nice because all you have to do is sing along. All right, so we're going to do that. There will be a little bell as as each vocalization shifts from out loud to whispered. So close your eyes, focus here, energy coming in, and let's go. Satanama, 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 Satanama. Whispering now. Satanama, 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 Satanama. Take a deep breath in. Hold it as long as you can. When you need to, exhale slowly and just sit very still. Now inhale, stretch your arms up over your head, spread your fingers as wide as you can, take another couple deep breaths in and out. This is distributing the energy of this meditation throughout your whole body. A couple inhales, couple exhales. 3 is an ideal number, and then relax the posture. Feel kind of different? Now, this is, again, the repetition. If we're going to have things in our patterns of doctor visits on a monthly or whatever basis, and treatments and therapies on a weekly basis, and prescription meds on hourly and daily bases, if you can do this once a day, it starts overlaying a new pattern on top of everything else that can just be tuning you back into that spiritual side of yourself, the control that our will can provide for us in writing our new story of our healing. Not even our healing, but our perfection. Our soul is already there. The body just needs to be reminded of that, and we can redo this. I'll end with a little anecdote because it just cracked me up. My teacher says, when he gets sick, he's just changed the story in his head. Doctors can tell him whatever. Everybody gets sick, even these high-level teachers that have been doing this practice all their lives. But he says, when I get sick, I just change the story. I'm using all my energy taking care of the earth. You see, meteors, giant meteors are not hitting the earth because I've been expending all my energy, and boy, I'm sick now because I'm so tired. So he gets a better story than what he's been told. And by the way, you're welcome. But how can you shift it just that much to where doctors can say what they're going to say, and you can say, yeah, cool, but my spirit inside, we got this. I'm already there. All right, so give this a shot. Again, you don't have to believe in everything that we've done here today, but if you can try it, see how this new pattern might start shifting you. And if you can, be trying your own personal mantras, something that's recording and mirroring back to you this new positive story in your life is something different. All right, Sat Nam, thank you for your time.